It is my great pleasure to welcome our next speaker to the podium. I'm not going to say what she told me of how to introduce her name, but I'm going to try it. Officer Ann Marie Carrizales has served in military and civilian law enforcement for more than 20 years, during which she has received numerous professional accolades and decorations. While serving in the United States Marine Corps, Officer Carrizales became the first woman in history to represent the Marine Corps in the sport of boxing, where she was subsequently inducted into the All-Marine Boxing Hall of Fame. She's kind of a badass. She later became the U.S. Women's National Light Welterweight Champion, ranked #1 in the country. I'm gonna ad-lib here. She probably could have beat Mike Tyson last night. She has been a Texas police officer since 2010, where she has served in a variety of roles to include patrol officer, field training officer, instructor, and crisis negotiator. Despite her many personal and professional accomplishments, her greatest joy comes from her role as mom. Please join me in welcoming Officer Ann Marie Carrizales as the Meadows Police Department, from the Meadows Police Department to the podium.
You couldn't say the rest of your sentence after that. Try it again. Carrizales.
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 Carrizales. Hi. Hey, how are y'all doing? That's about as exciting as that boxing match last night. How are we, beautiful people? I am super excited to come here and speak with you tonight. It's an honor, really it is an honor to be here. I'm in a room of massively incredible, phenomenal overcomers, am I not? Am I not? Overcomers, that people who were inspired by someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else, and they pass that flame on to the next person. But where does that come from, right? Where does that come from? When I watch all the stories and I'm hearing all the stories and I'm meeting all the people, sometimes I have to take a breath and ask myself, my gosh, what have I ever done to be amongst these amazing, incredible people? Let's talk about just some of the incredible people. So if you are a Special Olympics athlete, stand up. Stand up if you're here tonight. What? What? Look at them. Look at them. Yes. Overcomers. Overcomers. I love it. Look at these overcomers. All right. I got another one for you. Woohoo. If you are a U.S. military veteran, stand up. Yes. All right. U.S. Army, let me hear you. Okay. U.S. Air Force, where are you? Okay, all right. U.S. Navy. Oh, there they are in the back because they want to dip out to the bar real quick. U.S. Marine Corps. All right. Where's my Coast Guard? Yay! It's okay. There you go. I love it. Overcomers. Incredible overcomers, right? Where's Mr. Richard LaMunyon? Mr. Richard LaMunyon, stand up, sir, please. Overcomer. All this is because of you. You had a spark that was lit in you, a flame lit inside of you. You saw a calling to do something for other people, something bigger than yourself, because you were touched in here by someone, yes? And now look at that, right? Overcomers. Let's talk about who the real champions are in this room tonight, shall we? Let's talk about those. Any woman in this room who had to squeeze themselves into a pair of Spanx, woo! Those are the real champions. Yes, ma'am. All right. All right, I'll behave. I think human energy exchange is a beautiful thing, is it not? Human energy exchange, I think it's a beautiful thing. I love exchanging energy with other human beings, but I have to be very careful because I'm super sensitive to it, and sometimes the energy that I'm feeling and picking up isn't always the greatest. But what I have learned is that even that energy can serve us. Yes? Would you agree? My name is Ann Marie Carrizales. I'm a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. I'm a current Texas law enforcement officer. And I am a mother to two beautiful little babies, ages 29 and 20. And I know they told you guys what my fight weight was, so when I walked out of here, I saw a lot of confusion, like, that's her right there? Yeah, okay. You're probably wondering as you look at me with your judgy eyes, what happened? I'll tell you, overcoming happened. That's what happened. Okay? Because this woman, the daughter of Jose Luis Carrizales and Rebecca Carrizales, should not be standing here. By all accounts, I should have been laying on the ground dead on the night of October 26, 2013. They asked me to come here tonight and share a little bit of my story with you, so I'm going to do that briefly. Some of you, if you're in the room, and let me hear you, if you've heard this story before, my story, let me hear you. All right. Watch, this is how you know if they really know. You go. You go. All right, by the end of this, you're going to all understand what that means. But let me just tell you a little bit about me. I'm the daughter of a warfighter. My daddy, Jose Luis Carrizales, was a dual servant warfighter. He served in the U.S. Army, did a tour in Vietnam there, came back from Vietnam, and like a lot of people, a lot of these men and women who came back, he was not himself anymore. As he struggled with a lot of issues that back then we didn't really know what it was. Post-traumatic stress injury. And they struggled, a lot of them, they struggled, and they struggled in silence. Like my father, he was no exception. He thought that he didn't acclimate or assimilate back into civilian life because he was just no longer programmed to be a civilian. So he thought, maybe I should just go back in the military. So when I tell this story, I like to say he got out of the Army, didn't adjust well to civilian life. He got real smart and he joined the Marine Corps. Hoorah. So he joined the Marine Corps. So my daddy bears a U.S. Army tattoo, a U.S. Marine Corps tattoo. I'm very proud of my daddy. I'm in love with that man. My daddy was my first example of how we truly have a choice. Because, we all get the same wind, right? You've heard that saying. We all get the same wind. It's how you navigate your sail. That's going to determine the trajectory of where your life takes you. I believe that because I watched my daddy. Because my daddy suffered with all of those issues that he had begun to have as he battled demons that we couldn't see internally and in silence, we suffered a lot of violence at the hands of my father. The first teeth that I ever lost, my daddy knocked them out. He broke my right arm, and he had these bouts of violence that he couldn't explain. My mother, my older brother, and we suffered a lot at the hands of my dad's violence. But in between these bouts, when he wasn't in the thick of his fight after the fight, I had so much love from that man. My daddy taught me things at a very young age that I'm still, to this day, at 51 years old, y'all. Yes, thank you. I hit 51 in August. Thank you. I'm still very grateful for those lessons. I moved on and joined the Marine Corps, and my first year in, my first duty station, I went through a very traumatic event. I was assaulted by another Marine, and it left a lifetime sentence of trauma and hard work for me that I was going to have to face as I navigated that traumatic stress that I was dealing with. I found boxing, which proved to be a very effective outlet for me as I was seemingly pretty good at it. And I got to my very first duty station right out of boot camp. I went to military police school right here in San Antonio, Texas, and I was at Lackland Air Force Base. And I met the second man in my life who was going to teach me about life. Just like my daddy, where my father left off, this man picked up the reins. And he became the first man outside of my father to teach me about being an adult, to teach me about integrity, to teach me about being a Marine, to teach me about being a woman in the U.S. Marine Corps. And this man was the epitome of overcomer. This man is the late retired gunnery sergeant Simon Goreka. Simon passed away in August, and it broke my heart. But I was fortunate enough to have some conversation with him there toward the end of his days. And one of the things that he told me that he struggled with the most was that prior to getting his diagnosis, not knowing that he was sick, he didn't ever have a chance to really get in the fight once he got that diagnosis. The cancer was too far progressed, and he did all he could do in terms of treatment. So he always felt like he never got to get in the fight. He said, "You know, Ann, you got in the fight. You've always been in the fight since the day that I met you." And he started to kind of refresh my memory on a lot of the things that he used to teach me. A lot of the things I'd learned from my daddy, who ultimately changed his life by finding the Lord, becoming saved, putting himself through the Brown Trail School of Preaching, and becoming a minister who counseled other men and women who struggled with the things he struggled with. I saw that change in my father. I saw my father take that poop sandwich that life threw him and turn it into a filet mignon, right? It might go in a poopy sandwich, but it's coming out a filet mignon because my dad made it so. So as I sat there with Simon in his last hours of his life, as he refreshed my memory about the things he taught me, I realized what a true blessing it was to know him. I realized that so much of my outlook that I had on adversity came from him too. On October the 26th of 2013, I made a traffic stop that almost became my very last. I pulled over a car that had 3 MS-13 gang members in it. They'd been on a robbery spree that night. They'd murdered a young man weeks prior to this stop, and they'd gotten off of the freeway and come into the city of Stafford in Fort Bend County, a suburb of Houston, Texas. During this traffic stop, they ambushed me and shot me multiple times. I was shot in the face, point blank. I was shot in the left side of my left breast. And then they did what cowards do. They ran. With 2 holes in my face and a hole on the left side of my left breast, I did a self-assess check on myself to ensure that I was still able to engage. I reassessed, and I re-engaged, and I got back in my patrol car, and I gave pursuit. Ultimately, all 3 of these criminals were captured, and they are all in prison today. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I don't tell you this because I want to brag. I tell you these things because a little girl from Corpus Christi, Texas, who went through the fight since the day she could remember and navigated the fight and learned from that fight and overcame from those fights, who learned from the strong, incredible human beings that taught me the lessons, the Jose Luis Carrizaleses, the Rebecca Carrizaleses, the Simon Gurecas, and the many human beings that I've had the opportunity to stand in front of and learn from. I carried that with me, and I navigated through these traumas and came out a better, stronger version of myself. That is what these Special Olympic athletes do every single time that they get out there and they leave it all out there on the table. They overcome. They do the things that people told them that they would never be able to do. That is what the Mr. LaMunyons do. Don't tell somebody like that this can't be done. He's going to show you how it can be done. It's about perseverance. It's about carrying a flame in here and you're allowing no one to put that out. It's about that belief in yourself. It's about that no quit. It's about that U.S. Marine Corps that's in me and that law enforcement officer that's in me and that preacher's daughter that's in me. And y'all know how preacher's kids can be. That's going to keep pushing. That's all of you, because we all have something. We've all been there. We've all been knocked on our behinds, whether it's literally or figuratively speaking, and been left to sometimes wonder if we were going to be able to recover. I draw such incredible inspiration from these men and women who come together in this room tonight, all for a cause bigger than themselves. It's an honor for me. It's an honor for me to stand up here and remember the things that Simon Gureca taught me. Integrity. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Be sure of who you are and never compromise that. That's what Marines do. That's what good human beings do. The fight after the fight is something that I travel the country and outside of the country sharing. It's a story of going to the darkest places and coming back a stronger version of yourself. It's my story. There's so much more to me than the officer who was shot. There's so much more to me than the little girl who grew up navigating domestic violence, trying to understand a father who had no visible injuries to speak of, but had all the non-visible wounds for me to try to make sense of. I learned from that. I'm stronger from it. It's about drawing from that type of energy, from those type of human beings. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to draw from each other. You know, we come together to support the Special Olympics at this torch run. But I want you, all of you, Special Olympic athletes, to never forget what I'm about to tell you. We show up for you because as you go, I go. We show up for you and we always will. But I want you to know that you change our lives for the better as well. You have saved us as well. So during those times, when you question whether you can or can't, believe that you can. Mr. LaMunyon, this is because of something that you saw in your head, a vision, and you probably never in your wildest dreams knew it could get so big, but look at it. The Special Olympic athletes, some of who in this room weren't even sure that they would want to participate in something like this for fear that they would be bullied or made fun of. But they are now champions. You know why? Because they stepped into the arena and didn't let their fear keep them from doing that. Law enforcement officers all over the globe step into the arena every time when everyone else wants to take a run away from it. That's what we do. Special Olympic athletes do the same thing. It's no wonder that when we come together, it is an energy that's hard to duplicate. We are stepping into the arena, and I want to share something with you before I let you go. On April 23rd, in the year 1910, then President Theodore Roosevelt delivered a speech in Paris, France. The man in the arena. It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. No. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the worst, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. These Special Olympic athletes, these law enforcement officers, these men and women in the room from all parts of the globe, step into the arena. You are the men and women in the arena, and I salute you tonight. God bless you. I see you, and I stand with you. Good night. Thank you.